Welcome to Weaving Weird Studio and my creative weird life. My name is Sig, and what a pleasure it is to have you with me at this time. It's your interest and support that allows me to contribute new content and weekly videos. Help us all grow together by tapping the subscribe bar, notification bell, and like buttons. I look forward to your comments and always value your feedback. So today's tutorial is going to be on these super cute little jack-o'-lantern hair accessories. I'm going to show you how to make them with the standard hair elastic, as well as with a barrette blank. So depending on the hair, depending on who this is going to, you can certainly use whichever band or little hair barrette you need to make this work. So first we're going to start off with just a couple of minutes of history, and then we're going to get into a whole lot of tutorial. So let's get this show on the road. The jack-o'-lantern as we know it today is only a couple hundred years old. However, its roots can be traced far beyond the pre-Christian era of Europe. These skull cults were discovered as early as the Neolithic Age. There's a ton of compelling evidence found to support this practice, from Göbekli Tepe to modern-day Turkey to Stonehenge of Western Europe. These individuals believed that when the human skull was properly and ritualistically prepared, it would have power over the soul of the human it once belonged to for the purpose of exploiting their knowledge or prowess. It was also believed to facilitate communication with spirits and souls from across the worlds and beyond the veil. In short, it made you stronger than your enemies and gave you a great deal of protection and control over the spirits of the dead. Eventually, this evolved into the practice of using a skull and then a carved turnip lantern into the very tool that was needed to repel trickster spirits and evil entities. It was also particularly useful during the celebration of Samhain, an ancient Celtic festival that brought the end to the old year, blessed the harvest, and recognized the dead. Around 800 CE, Christianity became the dominant religion of the Celtic world. As a result, Samhain was replaced by Hallows Eve, October 31st, and All Saints' Day, November 1st, and a new character was then created to explain away earlier practices. This character is called Stingy Jack, and while there are many variations of his tale, the gist of the story focuses on a man of low character who has a sharp mind but demonstrates deceitful behavior. Basically, he's ultimately unable to get into heaven and isn't wanted by the devil. So his spirit is forced to wander the earth with only an ember placed in a carved turnip lantern to light his way. He was referred to as Jack o' the Lantern thereafter and used as a name given to a person or event that brought about danger through deceit. As Irish immigrants flooded into the U.S. during the mid-1800s, the practice of carving scary faces into turnips and potatoes to scare away unwanted spirits became fashionable. It was also around this time that pumpkins were recognized as a decidedly better choice for this task, and then popularly referred to as jack-o'-lanterns. Jack-o'-lanterns are currently used to scare away unwanted spirits while lighting a path for the living traveler or beggar of candy as we might understand it today. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using a variety of threads. All of them are going to be either lace weight or 0, or they will actually be size 10 crochet thread. And these are going to be the best size yarns and threads for the results you're going to be most happy with. So I'm first going to choose to use this lace weight yarn from Darn Good Yarns. And the name of this particular color is Autumn Skies, and I like it for this project because, well, as the name of the yarn suggests, it's very autumny. I'm also going to use this black crochet thread. Now this is a size 10, and this crochet thread is put out by Loops and Threads. Next, I'm going to use this pumpkin colored thread, and this is put out by Aunt Lydia's, and this particular orange thread is named Pumpkin. The last colored thread I'm going to use is this green thread. Now this is a size 10 also crochet thread. I can't really tell you who puts it out. I just purchased it quite a while ago with a whole, like, box of threads wrapped on these small little skeins. So, I guess we'll just call this unbranded, but it is a size 10 crochet thread. So then you're gonna want to decide whether you're going to use rubber bands, like these hair bands, and you can purchase these for fairly inexpensive at just about any store that sells hair accessories. And then also, you might decide that instead of hair bands, you would rather use one of these barrette blanks. Either one's gonna work out fine, and I will tell you how to attach either one depending on which one you'd rather use. Now, the hair blanks, you're going to either order them online or you're going to go to kind of a variety store like, oh, like your standard craft store, the craft section of a larger sort of general store in order to purchase these, and these aren't very expensive either. For this project, I'm using a number 2 still hook, a 1.5 millimeter. Also, I'm going to be using this longish tapestry needle. And for this particular project, personally, I prefer to work with a little bit of a longer needle. But if you don't have a longer needle, if you just have a standard sewing needle, as long as the eye is big enough to allow your yarn or your thread to go through, you're going to be fine. And then, of course, a pair of scissors. So the very first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead and chain 26 chains. So got 1, 2, 3. You're going to want to single crochet in that second chain from the hook. Then you're going to chain 1. Next, you're going to skip 3 chains, 1, 2, 3. And in that 4th chain over, I'm going to double crochet. Then chain 1, then double crochet again, then chain 1, and double crochet one more time, all in that same stitch. Then I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to skip 3, and in that 4th one, I'm going to single crochet. And then I'm going to chain again. And then you're going to skip 3 again. 1, 2, and 3. And in that 4th one, I'm going to go ahead and double crochet again once, plus a chain, plus a double crochet, plus a chain again, and plus 1 more double crochet, all in that same stitch. Then you're going to chain 1. Going to skip 3 chains again, and then in that 4th chain, going to single crochet, and then chain 1. Going to skip 3 more chains, and in that 4th chain, going to go ahead and again, going to do the double crochet, plus a chain, plus a double crochet, plus a chain, plus 1 more double crochet, all in the same stitch. Then I'm going to chain 1. And you're going to skip the next 3 chains. And in that 4th chain, or in this case, our last chain, you are going to make a single crochet. and that's completing your first row. Then you're going to turn your work, and you're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next, you're going to want to double crochet into that same stitch, your turning chain stitch. Then you're going to chain 1. Next, you're going to skip 3 again, which is going to land you right here into this middle double crochet. And you're going to single crochet. And then you're going to chain 1. And then you're going to skip 3 again. And this time you're going to place your double crochet right here into the next single crochet. Then you're going to chain 1 and double crochet. And then chain 1 and double crochet again. And then, of course, those 3 double crochets are all in the same stitch. Then you're going to chain 1 again, and you're going to single crochet in this second double crochet, the one right here in the middle. And then single crochet again. And then once again, I'm going to place a double crochet into that next single crochet. I'm going to chain 1, a double crochet into that same stitch, chain 1, and then the third double crochet back in that same stitch, just like before. Then I'm going to chain 1. Next, you're going to want to single crochet again into that second double crochet right there in the middle of the 3 double crochets. And then now that we're at the end of row 2, I'm going to go ahead and have you make a chain and then double crochet into that very last stitch, which is going to be your single crochet, and then chain 1 and then double crochet again into that same stitch. Next, we're going to turn, and this is going to be the beginning of row 3. So for row 3, I'm going to want to begin this by making a chain. And then we're going to want to go ahead and add a single crochet into that same stitch. Next, I'm going to have you chain 1. We're going to go ahead and do the 3 double crochets separated by the chain 1. So that'll be for my first double crochet, chain, second double crochet, chain again, and then the third double crochet. Then you're going to chain, and then come to this second double crochet. Basically, you're still skipping 3 stitches, and that brings you back here to this middle double crochet, and you're going to single crochet, and then chain 1. And then skip the next 3 stitches, which is going to bring you right back down here to this single crochet, this next single crochet. And in that one, again, I'm going to have you double crochet 3 times separated by a chain. So that'll be 1 double crochet plus a chain, second double crochet plus a chain, and then your last double crochet. And of course, we're going to add a chain. I'm going to skip 3. And then we're going to go ahead and single crochet into that middle double crochet. And then chain 1. And then one more time with the 3 double crochets into this next single crochet, which is separated by 3 stitches. All right, so 1 double crochet plus a second double crochet plus a chain, and then one more, my 3rd double crochet plus a chain. And then you're going to skip the next 3 stitches, which brings us to the end of our 3rd row. And in that last stitch, I'm going to go ahead and make a single crochet. And then I'm going to turn my work. And now we're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 7 more times. I will see you as soon as my 7th repeat is finished. Now, once I've completed all 17 rows, I'm going to fasten off. And then what I'm going to want you to do is cut yourself a tail that's long enough to where you can just weave it right here along the edge to about the center of your fabric. And then also, don't forget to do that same thing with the tail at the beginning. So now that we've finished this, we're going to move on to the edging. And for the edging, I'm going to use the black crochet thread. And just like I wove and had you weave your yarn to about the center part of your fabric, this is where we're going to begin our edging. And the reason for this is because when it comes time to make our bow, all of these little loose ends will be hidden inside the middle part of the bow. And then you're going to want to start, when you start your edging, you're going to want to start right here where you have 2 rows begin. So this is probably a good place to begin. It's about halfway. I'm going to go in and I'm just going to tie that in there. And then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slip stitch in the next spot on this edge where we have 2 of the rows converge. And then I'm going to chain 4 again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm going to slip stitch where the next 2 rows converge. And then I'm going to chain 4. I'm going to continue this down each of the long sides of the fabric. So now when I come down here to my corner, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slip stitch that in there. But then I'm going to go ahead and make a 3 count picot. So 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to make that picot right like that, like so. And then I'm going to, once again, slip stitch into that same stitch. And then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So next I'm going to come into a slip stitch right here in the stitch where we had our last 3 double crochets converge. And I'm going to slip stitch. And then I'm going to make a picot in that stitch. So 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and finish off that picot. And then I'm going to slip stitch in that same stitch. And then chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in the next stitch where we have that single crochet, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place a slip stitch right there. And then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then again in the stitch that sits where we did the 3 double crochets, I'm going to slip stitch in there, and that's going to be the stitch I place the picot. 1, 2, 3. and complete the picot, and then slip stitch again in that same stitch, and then chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in the next stitch where the single crochet was in an earlier row, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to basically do a slip stitch right in there, and then chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which brings us back to our next stitch that has our last double crochets in it for this length. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch, make my 3 chain picot. Then I'm going to slip stitch in that same stitch. I'm going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to do one more picot right here at the edge of my fabric. Again, slip stitch, 3 chain picot, 1, 2, 3. And a slip stitch again in that same stitch. And then I'm going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now bringing us back to the long side of our fabric again, and that side there are no picots. Not on the horizontal length. On the vertical length we have picots, but on the horizontal side of the piece there are no picots. So basically all I'm going to do here is I'm going to chain 4, and then I'm going to slip stitch to where the next 2 rows converge, and then I'm going to chain 4 and slip stitch where the next 2 rows converge. I'm going to continue that pattern all the way down the length of this fabric like this. And 4, and brings us right back to the edge. And this is the edge that's bringing us to the vertical side, or the vertical length of our bow. And so this is going to be the picot, the side where we do our picots. So again, I'm going to chain 3. Make my picot. And then I'm going to slip stitch in that same stitch again. And I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and in this middle part of the double crochet, I'm going to slip stitch. And then I'm going to chain 3 for 3 chain picot. I'm going to make my picot. And slip stitch again in that same stitch. And then chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to slip stitch in that single chain right here in the middle. I'm going to single crochet 4, which brings me back here to the center part of this 3 double crochet fan. And then I'm going to do my 3 chain picot again. And then of course slip stitch in the same stitch, and then chain 4, and then a slip stitch right here in this single crochet, and chain 4. Then here in the second double crochet, I'm going to slip stitch and do another picot. And then I'm going to slip stitch again in that same stitch, chain 4. And then right here at the corner, I'm going to go ahead and do our last picot. So slip stitch, chain 3, complete the picot, and then slip stitch again in that same stitch, and then chain 4. And then of course I'm going to finish up by making a single crochet where the next 2 rows join. I'm going to chain 4 and slip stitch where the next 2 rows join. Of course, chain 4 again. slip stitch where 2 rows join, and then chain 4. So you can see that I'm going to finish up right back here where I began. And your piece should look something like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut myself a tail as I fasten off. And then I want my tail to be a little long enough for me to tack my bow into place. And I'll show you what I mean. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to snip off those ends. Thread my needle, of course. And so I'm already about in the center part of my fabric. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pinch in the middle. And then I'm going to fold that over on the top part and pinch that down. And then here on the edge closest to me, I'm going to take my thumbs and I'm going to push that fabric up just a little bit so that I have basically 3 rows where I've rolled the fabric or folded it in on itself 3 times. And then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to run my needle right through the center part of those rows. Right? I'm going to do that 3-4 times just to hold that in place so that we never have to worry about it coming undone. Just like that. And then I'm going to finish this off in the back and we're going to set this part of the bow aside and move on to our next step. Now for the band that goes around the middle part of our bow, I'm going to go ahead and chain 23. And in this case, I want to leave myself a bit of a tail so that I can use that for sewing. So again, 1, 2, 3, 22, and 23. Next thing I want to do is single crochet in the second chain from the hook. And then I want to single crochet in the additional 21 stitches. So 1, 2, 20, 21. Next, you're going to turn your work, and you're going to chain 1, single crochet in that very same turning stitch. And then single crochet 21 for row 2. And row 3 is going to be a repeat of row 2. And so the band is only going to be 3 rows wide. So I'm going to begin row 2, and row 3 will be just like we did row 2. And I will meet you right back here after I complete row 3. So now that you have 3 rows of 22 single crochets, I'm going to set the band aside and move on to the next piece. Next thing we want to do is make the back of the pumpkin. And I'm going to begin by making an adjustable ring. And then I'm going to single crochet 6. 1, 2, and 6. I'm going to tighten that up. And for this, we want to work in a spiral. So for my second round, I'm going to single crochet 2 in each stitch, giving me a total of 12 for round 2. 1, 2, and 11 and 12. Now for round 3, going to want to increase that a little bit. So I'm going to single crochet in the next stitches, and in the stitch after that, I'm going to place 2 single crochets. So that's going to be 1, and then in the next stitch is going to be 2. I'm going to continue that pattern all the way around. So that'll give me a total of 18 stitches when I've completed this. Next is round 4, and for round 4 we want to end up with 24 stitches, and we're going to achieve that by making a single crochet, then 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and that's the pattern we are going to follow. So again, 1 single crochet and then a single crochet in the next stitch, and then in the stitch after that, 2 single crochets. So now that we've completed round 4, you should have 24 stitches total. Going to begin for round 5. And for round 5 is going to be a little different. So we're going to begin by the next stitch is going to be a single crochet, and then a single crochet in the next stitch, and then a half double crochet in the stitch after that. And then in the next stitch, I'm going to place 2 half double crochets. So 1 and 2. And then I'm going to do a double crochet in the stitch after that, and then a double crochet again in the stitch after that, and then 1 more double crochet in the stitch after that. And in the next stitch, I'm going to place 2 double crochets. So 1 and 2. And then I'm going to place a half double crochet in the stitch after that, and then a half double crochet in the stitch after that, and 1 more half double crochet in the stitch after that. And then in the next stitch, I'm going to place 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2. Now in the next stitch, I'm going to place a single crochet, and in the next stitch after that, a single crochet. And then in the stitch after that, I'm going to place a half double crochet. And in the next stitch, I'm going to place 2 half double crochets. So 1 and then 2. I'm going to place a double crochet in the next stitch. And in the next stitch after that, I'm going to place another double crochet. And then the stitch after that, 1 more double crochet. Now in the next stitch, I'm going to place 2 double crochets. So 1 and 2. Next stitch, I'm going to place a half double crochet. And then a half double crochet in the next stitch, and a half double crochet in the stitch after that. The next stitch is going to be a single crochet, and then in the stitch after that is going to be a single crochet. And I will have finished the back of my jack-o'-lantern. So I'm going to fasten off, but I am going to leave a tail in case I decide I want to use some of that for sewing. So next, for the face of the jack-o'-lantern, I'm going to start it off and continue just like we did for the back. Adjustable ring. I'm going to go ahead and single crochet 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And tighten my ring. I'm working in a spiral. So the completion of round 1, and we're going to move into round 2. And for round 2, going to have 2 single crochets in each of the 6 single crochets from round 1, giving us a total of 12 single crochet count at the end of round 2. So that's 1, 2, and lastly 11 and 12. So next for round 3, I want to end up with 18. So I'm going to alternate. So the first stitch is going to be 1 single crochet, and the next stitch is going to be 2 single crochets. And then again, 1 single crochet, and then 2 single crochets all the way around, and we'll end with a count of 18. Next, for round 4, we want to end up with a total count of 24. And for that, we're going to single crochet in the first stitch and single crochet in the second stitch. And then in the next stitch, we're going to place 2 single crochets, and that'll be the pattern all the way around. So now we're moving on to our 5th round, and this is where things get a little tricky, so I have to pay just a little bit more attention. So on the first stitch, I'm going to do a single crochet and a single crochet in the stitch after that, and then a half double crochet in the stitch after that. Now in the next stitch, I'm going to place 2 half double crochets, so 1 and then 2. Next, I'm going to place a double crochet in that stitch, and then the next stitch a double crochet, and then in the stitch after that another double crochet. Now in the next stitch, I want to place 2 double crochets, so 1 and 2. Then in the stitch after that, I want to place a half double crochet, and then in the stitch after that, another half double crochet, and then in the stitch after that, 1 more half double crochet. And then in the next stitch, I want to place 2 single crochets, so 1 and 2. Now in the stitch after that, I want to place a single crochet, and then in the next stitch, I want to place another single crochet, and in the stitch after that, I want to place a half double crochet. Now in the next stitch, I want to place 2 half double crochets, so 1 and 2. Then in the stitch after that, a double crochet, and then the stitch after that, a double crochet, and then in the stitch after that, another double crochet. And now in that next stitch, I want to place 2 double crochets, so 1 and 2. Next, I want to put a half double crochet in the stitch after that, another half double crochet in the stitch after that, and then 1 more half double crochet in the stitch after that. Next, I'm going to place a single crochet, or rather 2 single crochets in the stitch in the next stitch, 1 and 2. This time I'm not going to finish it off because we have 1 more round. Basically, we'll have 1 more round that will end up working the front and the back together. But before we do that, we want to take a minute and embroider the face. And the face is super simple to embroider. And I'll walk you through that, especially for those of you who don't know how to embroider or haven't had any real experience doing that. This will be very easy, and I'll walk you through that process with regards to this jack-o'-lantern face. Now, but before we do that, you've got a couple of options. You can leave your yarn or your thread connected, right? Just be real careful that while you're working it, you don't pull your yarn through. And in fact, you might even consider using a stitch marker just to hold it in place so you don't accidentally pull that loose. So we'll just go ahead and throw that in there as a safety measure. Okay, now just know that this is the top of your pumpkin. I'm going to get my needle. And I'm going to get a nice length of tail of my black crochet thread. And then with this face, it's easy to just see about where your center of your pumpkin is, and that's right here at the center hole. So that's where I'm actually going to start my nose. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to pull my yarn through just above that center circle, that center hole. And then I'm going to make a triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my needle in the hole right here to the side of my center hole. And then I'm going to figure out, okay, so my next hole is going to be right about here. This is going to be about the next corner spot around that center hole. So I'm going to pull my yarn through, and then I'm going to connect and create the bottom of my triangle. Next, I'm going to bring my needle back up through that first hole. And then I'm going to bring it back down through that corner point that I just made my triangle. So now you can see we've got a basic triangle. And so I'm going to fill the triangle in. So I'm going to bring my needle back through that point. And this time I'm going to bring it right down the center of the triangle. Right? And I want to put my needle right back right there at the base of the bottom line of my triangle. Because really that bottom line I'm pretty much kind of using as a guide. Now I'm going to put my needle through again through that top point. And I'm going to bring it right down here, right next to that line there on the side of my triangle. And I'm going to bring my yarn back up. So, and then I think my middle yarn kind of came over here to the side a little bit, maybe more to the side than I wanted it to. So normally what I would do is I would go and then just do another stitch on the other side of that middle line. But since that middle line seems to be kind of floating over to the left a little more than I anticipated, I'm just going to go ahead and insert my needle right next to that last stitch that I made. Okay. So that gives me my basic triangle. And then I'll do the same thing with each eye. Now that I have my second eye done, I'm going to figure out about where I want my mouth. Now on my first one, I made a smiley face. And this one I think I want to make more a scary kind of a face, or a mad kind of a face. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with this particular guide. So now we have one more little piece to do. And that is going to be the stem on top of our jack-o'-lantern's head. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain 12. So we got 1, 2, 3, 11, and 12. And so the second chain from the hook, I am going to place 2 single crochets in that same chain. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 single crochets in each chain until I've finished this row of chains. Okay, so now I have this curly stem. And the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from my hook. And then I'm going to place a half double crochet in the next 3 chains. So 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to chain 5 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from my hook. And then I'm going to half double crochet in the next 3 chains. So 1, 2, and 3. So now the next thing I'm going to do is right here into this half double crochet from the first little leaf. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place one more half double crochet right in there. And you can see how it pulls my second leaf up and kind of ties things together. Now I'm going to do one more of these leaves. So I'm going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from my hook. And then I'm going to half double crochet in the next 3 chains. So 1, 2, and 3. And just like we did with the second leaf, I'm going to come over here to the first leaf again, and I'm going to place a half double crochet right there into that stitch. And then in the next stitch above that, I'm going to go ahead and make a slip stitch. And then I'm going to go and finish that off. But I'm going to leave myself a nice little tail because I'm going to use that to sew with. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the back part of my pumpkin head. I'm just going to kind of run this tail here, just kind of weave it in and bring it towards the center of the inner backing of my jack-o'-lantern head or face. And so this is the wrong side, and the wrong side of my work is going to sandwich against the wrong side of my actual pumpkin face. So now that I have it like this, I'm going to take my band and I'm going to face the wrong side away from me. So I'm going to face the right side of my work. But with the wrong side of the back of my head, I'm going to have that side facing me. I'm going to figure out about where the center of this band is. And you can see that the shape of my head is oblong, so I want the long side to cross the length of my band. So next I'm going to use this thread, or this crochet thread rather, and I'm going to just bring it through. And I'm just going to sew it on. So basically I'm going to, do this satin stitch a couple of times. And just tack it on in there pretty good. So you can see that it's on there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and knot it because, no one's going to see the knot anyways, so that doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about trying to weave it in perfectly because the knot's going to work just fine. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to actually crochet the face of my pumpkin on. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove my stitch marker. And then I'm going to crochet a 6th row or a 6th round. And I'm going to do that right through both layers. So the pattern for this is going to be a single crochet 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then in the next stitch, I'm going to place 2 single crochets. And then I'm going to single crochet again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then of course the next stitch is going to then be 2 single crochets. And continue doing that all the way around. And I should have a total of 36 stitches. And once you've made it all the way around, and then you're going to go ahead and fasten this off and weave your orange into the center between the face and the back of your jack-o'-lantern. So now you have something that looks like this. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put on my stem and leaf topper. Okay, so now that the face is completed, along with the topper, I'm going to go ahead and place the face onto the bow. I'm just going to figure out right there about the middle of the bow. And then again, I'm going to take one of these tails that I'm going to use for sewing. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew this right into the bow itself. So it might get a little fiddly. You might have to move some stuff out of the way. And then I'm going to weave this in just a little bit through the length or the thickness of the center part of the bow, just so that I can knot off this bit of thread. And then I'm going to go ahead and get another one of my tails. And I'm going to figure out about where I want this placement to be. And then again, I'm still playing with placement. But it's all basically right here into the center. And I'm going to use this tail just to kind of just to sew this next part of my band. Just kind of into place a little bit. It just gives it a little more stability. And I'm just going to pull that right on through. So now the back of your piece should look something like this. So you've got the one bottom part of your band pulled up and stitched down, and then we've got the other side of the band stitched in place on top and ready to hold your barrette or your hairband into place. And so this is the placement I worked out for this guy. As with most of these artistic pieces, there's a lot of room for personal expression. So you can make all your ribbons look the same, or you can have your pumpkin heads slightly in different locations. You know, it's really going to be up to you. So now next you're going to decide if you want the hairband or if you want the barrette. The hairband is real simple. You're just going to take your hairband and you're going to take your onto the inside of your flap, and you're going to fold your flap over that headband, and you're just going to sew it down. And that will be all there is to it. In this case, I am going to use a barrette for this piece. And for this piece, the barrette has this space between the top part of the barrette and this center spring part of the barrette. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take that flap and I'm going to work that through, and then I'm going to sew that into place. Now, the barrette is going to be a little different in that I have 2 holes on either side of the barrette, and this is going to allow me to tack on each side of the bow onto that barrette so that it doesn't move around, because we don't really want that to happen. We want that to be pretty stable considering it's a barrette. So, and this is what the back of the barrette looks like now that it's sewn into place. It's not going to go anywhere. You can place it in your hair. And then of course this is the one with the hairband that you can use instead of a barrette. Either way works just fine with this particular design. So now it's the time for me to say goodbye. But until we see each other again, stay crafty, stay amazing, and above all, keep weaving your weird. Bye-bye now. Have a wonderful week.